Gronemann Gaming. Hallo und herzlich willkommen zurück zu einer weiteren Folge von We Happy Few mit der Bonusausgabe. Und wir machen hier die Sammlerstücke. Wir sind jetzt bei Ich verstehe dich, Wort des Tages. Und ich hoffe, wir kommen. Ich glaube, wir kommen nicht bis hierhin. Wenn wir bis hierhin kommen würden, wäre es natürlich überragend. Dann hätten wir danach nur noch eine Folge mit den ganzen eigenen Sammlerstücken von den Protagonisten. Ich glaube, das wird dabei. Deswegen gucken wir uns jetzt doch direkt mal hier das Wort des Tages. Epistemologie.
And now it's time to read some of the letters our audience writes to Jack Worthing. That's me, Uncle Jack. First we have Mrs. H.K. Chesterfield of Purlewin's Drive, Maidenhome. And she writes, "Sometimes, when I look out at my window at the garden district at night, I think I see fires. I assumed it was the bobbies keeping themselves warm, but once I saw a whole lot of fires out on Wednesday's Hill. They're not having some sort of police convention, are they? And I swear I could hear chanting." Well, Mrs. Chesterfield, I shouldn't worry. Sometimes, you know, the moon reflects in the windows, and then if there's a wind knocking against that window, it can create a sort of flicker effect. Now, my guess is that your curtain rod has fallen down. If you just fix up your curtain rod and draw the blinds close at night, you'll find you're no longer worrying about fires in the garden district. Instead, you'll think about how cozy we all are in our houses at night. And now, yes, let's go to this chap. Mr. Nigel Higginbotham of Bellis Road, St. George. And he writes, "How long can this go on?" Well, that's odd, isn't it? That's all he wrote. There's another side. It continues, "How long has this been going on?" Well, that's a rather strange one, isn't it? Do you know, I think this must be some sort of riddle. Yes, and if it is a riddle and one of you clever clogs have a clever answer, please drop a note to Jack Worthing, that's me, at the broadcast tower, and, well, I'll be sure to let everyone else know it. I almost forgot. It's time for the secret word of the day. I'm going to say a word, and ladies, if you can get a bobby to say that word, you're allowed to kiss them. But you're not allowed to say that word to them, because that would be cheating. All right? The secret word of the day is epistemology. Now, it will help you to know that epistemology is the study of how we know things. All right? Well, good luck, ladies. And remember, no telling them the word first. I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in later for more Uncle Jack.
Ja, ich hoffe, ihr habt euch jetzt nicht gewundert. War kurz eine kleine Pause drin. Dann war ein Kühlschrankbesuch vor mir drin. Und ein geöffneter Energy. Also alles, was man nicht braucht. Plus das, was ich die Pause gemacht habe. Und auch noch die Untertitel verschwunden sind. Deswegen, ja, ich musste aber kurz gucken, ob der weiter aufnimmt oder überhaupt aufnimmt, weil ich hatte keine Lust, jetzt wieder alles darzustellen. Nicht? Jetzt bei die Nachrichten. Schlafen Sie. Was tun mit Leuten, die auf der Straße liegen? Ist wieder alles beim Alten.
Every now and then, you might see someone who seems to be sleeping on the path or even in the middle of the road. Now, we all know that the middle of the road is not the most comfortable place to sleep, and it's rather inconvenient for the rest of us. We might trip on them. So, what's going on? Well, the first thing to find out is if they're sleeping or if they're just lying there. Are their eyes open? If you shake them, do they make sounds? Let's suppose their eyes are open and they seem responsive to you. There's a possibility that they're feeling too sad to get up. In that case, you're dealing with a downer. We all know what to do with a downer, don't we? Offer them joy. If they won't take it, round up a few people near you and make sure they take it. If their eyes are closed, but they seem responsive, then they may be sick. It's probably best to prop them up in a building and let a doctor know. You don't want to spend too much time with a sick person. You might get sick too, and doctors know just what to do with sick people, after all, and you don't. But what to do if they don't respond? It's possible that they've passed on. Now, there's no need for you to deal with a dead body on the street. The authorities are fully capable of dealing with any deceased citizens and will properly dispose of their remains. And what you should definitely not do is stand there gawping. You don't want to draw a crowd, and it's not healthy to stare at a dead body. It might bring you down. So just leave the body there and move on. And if you see a lot of people walking past someone in the middle of the street, well, you can safely trust that they've already realized there's nothing further they can do for that person. Just pretend that the person in the street is not there. Sooner or later they won't be. Take it from me, Uncle Jack. What's done is done, and it's best if we all move on. You'll be glad you did.
Herrlich. Lichter im Gartendistrikt, sei nicht albern.
Sometimes people get confused about the garden district. But we English love our gardens, don't we? And from the painted road we call home, it can look like the unrenovated areas of Wellington Wells are abloom with wildflowers. But you can never be too careful. The garden district is abloom with mortal dangers as well. Hungry wastrels and depressing downers prowl the land. And the municipal police simply do not have the resources to patrol places that no one lives. So, be sensible and stay on the painted road. It's there for your enjoyment and protection. Well, the painted road is all you know and all you need to know.
Also die Nachrichten gehen relativ schnell.
Having trouble sleeping? Think it might be nice to take a walk down your street and take in the moon and stars? Well, get yourself into your kitchen and warm up a cup of milk and go take a look at the moon and the stars out of your window. It's not a bright idea to go out at night. Who knows what could happen in the fog? You could trip and hurt yourself. You could fall in a hole. Foggy Jack might get you. Of course, Foggy Jack doesn't really exist. But you can never be too careful. Take it from me, Jack Wood. Stay inside until dawn and greet the bright new day. You'll be glad you did.
Also nachts nicht rausgehen, ne? Dann bist du nämlich, jetzt bist du nämlich nicht helle. Neuigkeiten, die Zusammenfassung der besten Nachrichten.
Welcome to News Hour. All sorts of amazing things have been going on in Wellington Wells. I'm sure you must be as excited as I am to know about them. You may be surprised to know that a few silly people are still throwing out perfectly good meat scraps. Now, it's never a good idea to throw out food, especially meat. If you have a scrap of meat you don't want to eat or that's gone slightly off, then run it right down to your neighborhood butcher. They'll know what to do with it, and they'll be happy to buy it from you or exchange it for sausage or even V-meat, yes. You'll be doing yourself a favor and you'll be doing your patriotic Wellington Wells duty as well. And remember, my fellow Wellsians, V-meat may smell off on rainy days, but it's always nutritious, and it never actually goes bad. I'm happy to report that many homeowners are taking steps to ensure the security of their castles. I mean homes, for an Englishman's home is his castle, isn't it? And don't let anyone tell you any different. Yes, even more homes are being outfitted with the latest state-of-the-art home alarm systems. This is due to the recent outbreak of being sensible. You can never be too careful these days, eh? Anyway, it's good to know that people are safe in their own homes. If you notice any suspicious characters skulking round your neighborhood, be sure to lock all your doors and bar all your windows, and inform a local policeman if you can find one. I'm happy to report the graduation of a new class of policemen. And don't be surprised if you look up and see a new face under those blue custodian helmets. There'll be quite a bit more of them around, so honest, sensible citizens should feel even safer on our streets. Some of you may be wondering why so many shops are closed. There's nothing to worry about at all. Many shopkeepers are taking advantage of the lull in purchases to make much-needed repairs to their establishments. Or they're simply going on holiday. Don't be afraid to use this opportunity to try a new place. Many shopkeepers are still open for business and would love to see your smiling face. Yes, and variety is the spice of life. You may be wondering about the yellow powder currently coating our streets. Is it a particularly imaginative attempt at making our city even more colourful? Shall we expect blue powder and red powder in the next few days? Will there be rainbow-coloured dust devils? Well, no one can make predictions, especially about the future. But I can assure you there's nothing to worry about. The dust clouds have now dispersed. There should be no more powder falls. I will suggest, though, that for the next few days, if you eat any wild plants, you ought to wash them very carefully. If your water's working, or at least sponge them off until you can see no more powder on their leaves. It's also a very good idea to stick to piped water and any sealed supplies that you may have, at least until the sulfur powder has washed away into the sewer system. Again, nothing to be concerned about, but do be careful to take a few precautions and keep tuned to good old Jack Worthing, that's me, for further updates. Ah, yes. I'm happy to inform you that the shipment of tainted vegetables has been completely removed from our streets. If you hadn't heard, there had been an unfortunate outbreak of botulism in the vegetables at your local greengrocer. There's no need to worry. You won't find a single vegetable for sale in Wellington Wells. Yes, what about my stew, you may ask? Well, not to worry. The authorities are looking into providing vegetables from new sources, and I should have more about that for you in the upcoming days. And I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in again tomorrow for more timely, informative, and cheery news of Wellington Wells. This is Jack Worthing saying goodbye and on with your day. See you soon.
Ja, die Nachrichten gehen relativ zügig. Oh, Goldglöckchen und die 3 Beeren habe ich auch noch nicht gehört. Also, gucken wir mal.
Everyone is talking about the shocking thing that happened yesterday. You know what I'm talking about. I have it on good authority that it was not at all what you might have thought it was. And in any event, the responsible parties are taking steps to make sure it never happens again. In the meantime, keep calm and carry on. And don't forget to take your joy. And the weather report is rain, rain, go away, come back again some other day. Remember, gentlemen, while rainwater goes down smooth in a whiskey, it does not contain joy. So, if you like to collect rainwater for tempering your constitutional, please remember to adjust your dose accordingly. And the weather is delightfully sunny, inside and out. Who doesn't love an English spring? I expect to see nothing but smiles out there. In fact, anything but smiles out there is strictly forbidden. Also, extremely unlikely, unless someone's happy face falls off. Can you imagine that? Better make sure it's not you. In case you might have heard a loud explosion coming from the general direction of the Victory Memorial Camp, don't worry, it wasn't someone blowing themselves up on the minefield. It was merely the members of the Home Army testing their ordnance. Mortar shells apparently don't last forever, and there's nothing more frustrating than dropping a shell on the enemy and it turning out to be a dud. So they must regularly test their supplies. That's all it was. No fatalities at all, and no worries. You may have noticed one of our favourite shops boarded up. There's no need to worry. We're told the proprietor, you know who I'm talking about, is renovating, and he doesn't want anyone to see it until it's done. At least that's what he says. I suspect he may simply have gone on holidays and doesn't want us to know. So if you notice a certain person comes back to Earth looking remarkably well rested, we'll know the truth, won't we? Our local football team has done it again. A thrilling victory over some tough rivals. Never seen such exciting footwork. And they really use their heads. Of course, it's nothing less than we expect from our finest. If you see them, do buy them a pint for me. I'm sorry to say tomorrow's cricket match has been postponed due to uncertain weather. Can't very well play cricket in a typhoon, so we'll let you know the revised schedule as soon as we receive the details. In Hamelin, our favourite butcher shop has a very special today. Is it pork chops? Is it pepperoni? Is it filet mignon? Is it roast chicken? Or is it just several cases of fresh, delicious V-meat? Now that I've got your mouth watering, well, I'm not going to tell you what it is. You'll have to go visit yourself. And do give your favourite butcher my regards. No one slices like he does. There has been some confusion about the pass required to enter the city centre of Wellington Wells. To obtain your pass, you simply need to present yourself in person with a recent photograph and a typed explanation of your purpose at the Department of Public Order. Simple, isn't it? That's all you have to do. The department is located at 5 Wapping Road, near the corner of Bath Street, in the centre of Wellington Wells. I hope that clarifies everything. There has been some excitement at the Victory Memorial Camp. An unauthorized person was intercepted attempting to plant tulips around the chain link fence. Fortunately, she set off all the alarms and was quickly apprehended. Imagine how alarming it would have been if she'd not been caught. Kaboom! Yes. Now, the leadership of the Home Army hastens to remind the public that the Victory Camp and the surrounding relics of our heroic resistance have been preserved in its immediate post-victory state. That means unmarked minefields and unexploded ordnance every which way. She could have got herself blown up. So don't be a tourist fatality. No one except members of the Home Army in good standing has any purpose in the memorial camp. And if you want to plant flowers, how about planting them in town where we could all see them? Some viewers have asked me, how can I find out more about the resistance and the victory? Now, I always tell them, why on earth would you want to know more about the war years, their ancient history, and our lives are so much better now? But, due to popular demand, we now have a book with all the answers. It's called The Story of Our Victory, and it's written by me, Jack Worthing. It's a lovely little book with cheery illustrations and quotations from all your favourite wartime heroes, and it tells you absolutely everything you should ever want to know about the war and our glorious victory. If it's not in the book, you don't need to know it. Some viewers have asked, how do I join the brave soldiers of the Home Army? Now, I've asked the Home Army leadership to respond, and they would like you to know that the Home Army has a full complement of highly trained warriors ready to repel any future invasion by our enemies, or even our friends. So there's no need to join anything. You can just be a patriot by smiling at everyone you meet. Now, go about your day and enjoy our lovely English weather, whatever it is.
Genau. So sieht's aus, Jack. Ja, das ist nicht so viel. Machen wir doch mal Goldlöckchen Teil 1.
Well, it's getting late, isn't it? It's time for all good citizens to be getting ready to go to bed. You don't want to be out after dark, do you? Would you like me to read you a bedtime story? Of course you would. Well, curl up in front of the telly and Uncle Jack will tell you a story. Tonight's story is called Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Once upon a time, there were 3 bears who lived in a house in the woods. They were called Henry Bear, Jane Bear, and Jane's father, Old Edward Bear. They had barely enough food to feed themselves, but it was enough. Every morning, Henry Bear had a big bowl of porridge because he was big, and Jane had a medium-sized bowl because she was medium-sized, and Old Edward Bear had a small bowl, for though he was wise, he was tiny and needed to preserve his strength, and he didn't need to eat that much either. And Henry had a big chair, and Jane had a medium-sized chair, and Old Edward had a small chair that was padded and very comfortable. And each of them had a bed to sleep in, a small bed for old Edward Bear, and a medium-sized bed for Jane Bear, and a big bed for Henry Bear. Every morning, Jane Bear made porridge for the three of them, just enough so they would have energy throughout the day, and she gave them each their joy, 1 pill for old Edward Bear, 2 for herself, and 3 for big Henry Bear. They took their joy right away, of course, because they knew it's always best to start the day with joy. And then they would go out for a walk in the woods to find berries to put in their porridge while it cooled, because they knew berries are very healthy in porridge. But one morning, while they were out, a young woman came by their house. Her name was Goldilocks, for she had golden hair, of which she was very proud. And she was always getting into mischief and causing her neighbours trouble, because she thought she was entitled to everything because of her pretty golden hair. Well, the 3 bears were sensible bears, and they'd locked up their house. It's always best to leave your house locked, because you can never be too careful. But when Goldilocks came by the bears' house one morning and noticed that the bears were not there, she said to herself, "What a nice house! I wonder what is in it." So she checked all the windows, and sure enough, one of the window latches was loose. Goldilocks said to herself, "Oh, stupid bears! They have not protected themselves so well." So she pried the window open and went into the bear's house, even though she did not belong there. And she found herself in front of the dining table. Now, Goldilocks was not particularly hungry, and she was used to much better food than porridge, but she believed that anything she could take belonged to her. So she decided to taste the porridge. First, she decided to sit in the large chair and try the large bowl. "Oh, this porridge is much too hot," she said to herself. Then she decided to sit in the small chair and try the small bowl. "Oh, this porridge is much too cold," she said to herself. So she decided to sit in the medium-sized chair and taste from the medium-sized bowl. "Oh, yum, it's perfect," she said to herself, and she ate up all the porridge in the bowl. Well, eating all that porridge made Goldilocks very sleepy. "I wonder what sort of beds these bears have," she said to herself. So she looked for the bedroom, and as the bears had a very small house, she found it right away. And she saw that there were 3 beds. At first, she tried the smallest bed, which was old Edward Bear's bed, but this bed was much too small for her, and no matter how much she thrashed around, her feet hung out. So she tried the big bed, which was Henry Bear's, but the big bed was very high, and no matter where she rolled around in the bed, Goldilocks was afraid that she'd fall out while she was asleep. So she tried the medium-sized bed, which was Jane Bear's bed, and she said to herself, "This is just right. I shall make this one my bed." And in no time at all, she was fast asleep. And I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in again tomorrow evening, and I'll tell you the rest of the story of Goldilocks and the 3 bears.
Da gucken wir mal direkt Teil 2 an.
Well, it's getting late, isn't it? It's time for all good citizens to be getting ready to go to bed. Would you like me to read you a bedtime story? Of course you would. I haven't finished the story of Goldilocks and the 3 bears. Well, gather round, citizens, gather round. I'll tell you how it ends. We last left Goldilocks fast asleep in the 3 bears' house. She's eaten Jane Bear's porridge and made a mess of the dining room and the bedroom, and she's still asleep in Jane Bear's bed. Well, soon enough, the 3 bears came home from their walk through the forest. They hadn't found many berries, just enough to flavour their porridge and keep them from getting scurvy, but they were looking forward to breakfast. But when they came into their dining room, they could see that something was not quite right. Henry Bear saw that there was a spoon sitting in the middle of his porridge. "Someone's been at my porridge," he said in his great big gruff bear voice. And then old Edward Bear saw that there was a spoon in his bowl of porridge. "And someone's been at my porridge too," said old Edward Bear. And Jane Bear looked at her bowl, and she was very upset. "Someone's been at my porridge too, and they ate it all up." Well, she was very upset indeed, for now she'd nothing to eat except for a few berries. Well, Henry Bear and old Edward Bear each gave her some of their porridge. But now they were all very hungry, because none of them had had enough to eat. And bears need to eat a lot of food when they can, because they know that winter is coming, and there won't be anything to eat. Since they hadn't had enough to eat, they decided to rest a bit, because asleep is a poor man's dinner. But when they got to the bedroom, old Edward Bear looked at his bed and saw how the covers had been thrown on the floor. And he said, "Someone's been lying in my bed." And Henry Bear looked at his bed and saw how the covers had all been rumpled, and he said, "Aye, and someone's been lying in my bed and all." And Jane Bear looked at her bed, and at first it looked like it was still neatly made. But then she saw Goldilocks. "And someone's been lying in my bed," she shrieked, "and she's still there." At that, Goldilocks woke up with a start, and she saw the three bears staring at her, and she screamed, "Get out! Get out, all of you! Get out of my house!" Maybe because she thought she was in her own house, or maybe she thought that she could take the bear's house from them if she could scream loud enough. So Henry Bear hit her with his big bear claw and knocked her head clean off her shoulders. Oh. They felt much better. Then they ate the rest of her, tore her apart and ate her. Felt very good indeed, because now they had enough to eat. And all three of them lived happily ever after. And Goldilocks, she never bothered them again. And the moral of the story is, don't go wandering round at night, or you might get killed. Well, that's the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. What a wonderful story. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed reading it. And I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in again tomorrow for another bedtime story.
Dieses plumpe Ende. Jetzt stand die Bären vor ihr, wo ich den Kopf ab. Okay. Aber ja, wahrscheinlich wäre es einfach tatsächlich auch wirklich so, ne? Also, muss man ja so sagen. Schauen wir uns doch nochmal Teil 1 und Teil 2 von Hänsel und Gretel an.
Well, it's getting late, isn't it? And it's time for all good wellies to cuddle up in bed. You don't want to be out after dark, do you? Only Jack might come for you. And then where would you be? In several places at once, wouldn't you? Would you like me to read you a bedtime story? Of course you would. Well, curl up in front of the telly, and Uncle Jack will tell you a story. Tonight's story is called Hansel and Gretel. Once upon a time there lived a poor woodcutter and his wife and his two aged parents. The old man's name was Hansel, and the old woman's name was Gretel. There was little to eat, and when a hard winter came across the land, so hard that the wolves prowled the crossroads at night, the woodcutter could no longer feed his parents. He lay in bed with his wife, and they discussed what to do. The woodcutter's wife said, "Here's what we do, liebling. We will lead them deep into the woods, yeah? To gather the firewood, okay? And then we will trick them, and we will leave them there. And natürlich, there will be enough bread for the both of us." For you see, they were not her parents, and they didn't particularly like her. Now at first the woodcutter said, "Well, I don't know, maybe I should lead you in the woods instead." But his wife said, "Oh, it's a funny man. No, they are old and they do not work anymore, okay?" And the woodcutter had to admit, she had a point. What the woodcutter did not know was that his parents had overheard the entire conversation, for they had very good hearing for old people. They'd not been sleeping well. And Hansel said to Gretel, "Our son's going to leave us in the woods to starve. What shall we do?" Gretel said, "Let us gather bright pebbles by the light of the moon." The next day at dawn, the woodcutter and his wife led his parents deep, deep into the woods, deeper than they'd ever gone to cut firewood. The wife made a fire for them and said, "Yes, by the fire, there'll be chops of wood." And soon enough, they heard the sound of chopping. Hansel and Gretel thought perhaps their son had not left them after all. But late in the evening, the wind died down, and so did the sound of chopping. For it was only a branch that the woodcutter had rigged to bang against a tree in the wind. But Hansel and Gretel, they dropped bright pebbles all along the path into the woods, and they were able to follow them all the way back to the woodcutter's house, which had been their house when they raised him. When they came to the door, the woodcutter's wife, well, she was alarmed to see them. "You wicked people! Your son has been crying ever since you left him. He thought you did not want to come back." That night the woodcutter told his wife, "It's a gift from God. We don't have to leave my parents in the woods after all." "Oh, you fool! Idiot!" said the woodcutter's wife. "Do we have more bread heute Abend than we did yesterday?" And the woodcutter had already agreed once to abandon his parents,
einfach heute Abend.
so he didn't really have a leg to stand on, did he? So he agreed to lead them out into the woods the next morning. That night, Hansel went to gather bright pebbles by the light of the moon, but the woodcutter's wife had locked the door, so he couldn't gather any. In the morning, Hansel begged his son for a crust of bread to eat on the forest path, but he did not eat it. Instead, as his son led him deep into the woods, he broke off small bits and dropped them on the forest path. All along the way, Hansel spoke to his son of happier days, when they both had been young and the land was fat. He was hoping to soften his son's heart, and the woodcutter, well, he smiled and nodded. But when you're going to kill a man, it costs nothing to be polite. And again, the woodcutter's wife made them a fire and made them lie down and rest by it, while the woodcutter and his wife went into the forest to chop wood. But they heard no branch banging against a tree, for the time was past for pretenses. Hansel said to Gretel, "Let us find our way home before night falls, because it's very cold and they're not coming back for us." And I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time.
Spannend.
We'll have to continue this delightful story
Spannend,
tomorrow night.
spannend. Schaffen Sie es? Schaffen Sie es? Ich bin gespannt. Ja, wir werden, glaube ich, danach noch 2 Folgen vom Bonus haben. Ich glaube, wir haben die ganzen morgen. Ich weiß nicht, wie lange die dauern. Wie es Simon sagt, könnte noch ein bisschen länger dauern. Gucken wir mal, wie lange das jetzt dauert.
Well, it's getting late, isn't it? And it's time for all good citizens to hop into bed for the night. Would you like me to read you a bedtime story? Of course you would. I haven't finished the story of Hansel and Gretel. Well, snuggle up by your telly or radio, and I'll tell you how it ends. When we left Hansel and Gretel, their son had just abandoned them in the woods for the second time. But Hansel and Gretel had cleverly left a trail of breadcrumbs for them to find their way back. But it was a very hard winter, and starving birds had already pecked up all of the breadcrumbs. The snow began to fall, which covered up anything the birds had left. Hansel and Gretel could not find their way home. Instead, they only wandered deeper into the woods. After 3 days of trudging in the snow without anything to eat, they were on the verge of dying of exposure when they came upon a small house. A white bird stood upon the roof in spite of the snow, and now and then pecked at it. And so they realized that the entire house was made out of gingerbread, and the windows were made out of clear sugar. They were starving, of course, so Hansel helped himself to a chunk of the eaves, while Gretel broke off some of the window frame, which was made of frosting. Then a voice came from inside.
"Nibble, nibble, little mouse. Who's nibbling at my house?"
They answered, "It's only the wind which nibbles away at all things." But then Gretel poked her finger through the window in order to break off a piece of the clear sugar, and a witch suddenly came out of the house. Now you see, they could tell she was a witch because she was beautiful and young, but she moved carefully, like someone who had once been old. And they expected her to be angry, but she was kind, so she seemed.
"You poor dears,"
She said,
"come into my house and sit by the fire, and you can have all the gingerbread and cake you like."
and they ate gingerbread and cake and pancakes, and soon they fell asleep, for they were exhausted. But the witch, but the witch was only pretending to be kind to Hansel and Gretel. Really, she intended to cook and eat them. In fact, she had made the gingerbread house in order to lure someone to eat. For witches believe, I am told, that if you eat someone, you get their power. Hansel woke up in a cell made not of sugar, but iron bars and oak beams, and cry as he might, no help came to him. And the witch woke Gretel, saying,
"Get up. Cook a nice meal for your husband, for he's to be fattened up."
So Gretel cooked up an omelette full of cheese and pancakes and biscuits. Biscuits for breakfast? Well, it might have been wonderful if it wasn't so evil. And the witch watched Hansel eat, planning how to cook him up. But then Gretel hit her hard as she could in the head with the firewood axe, and the witch never looked at anything again. Some say Gretel did something cleverer to the witch, like tricking her into the oven. But it doesn't pay to be too clever, you know. Gretel let her husband out of his cell, and the two of them rejoiced and ate as much of the house as they could stomach. And as they munched and crunched the house, they discovered there were pearls and precious stones hidden in the gingerbread. Hansel filled his pockets, and Gretel filled her apron. By now, the sun had come out, and Hansel and Gretel were able to work out which way their home was. So they walked home, excited to tell their son all about the pearls and rubies and sapphires they'd found in the house. The woodcutter's wife answered their door. The woodcutter's wife... Here it comes. The woodcutter's wife answered the door, and, well, Gretel quickly cut her down with an axe. Good old Gretel. And her son quickly forgave her, for blood is thicker than water. And the moral of the story is, if you want someone dead, do it yourself. Well, no, that's not actually the moral of the story. This story doesn't have a moral. Good stories never do. Well, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in tomorrow evening, and I'll tell you the...
Also ich muss sagen, diese Gute-Nacht-Geschichten, ne, die gefallen mir echt gut. Ich glaube, da kommt aber leider jetzt nichts mehr, ne, oder? Guten Morgen, guten Morgen. Schau an, schau an. Ne, kommt nichts mehr. Wirklich überzeugend. Gefällt mir richtig gut, was da gemacht wurde. Komm, wir machen jetzt Spiele mit Jack Folge 1.
And now, it's time for our daily recreational activity, to show where you're the star. Come on, everybody. It's time for everyone to gather in front of the telly. And if you're inside, be sure to go and find a telly outside. This game is much more fun to play in a crowd. Today, we're going to be playing Simon Says. Are you ready to play? Okay, begin. I didn't say Simon Says, I got you already. Now you all know the rules, don't you? I'm going to tell you to do something, but if I don't say Simon Says, you don't do it. If I do say Simon Says, you do it. Okay? Ready? Is everybody ready? You there? Are you ready? Oh, come on, don't be shy. You know you want to. Of course you do. There's a good lad. Everybody give him a hand. Ah, no, wait a minute. I didn't say Simon Says. Okay. Simon Says, begin. All right. Simon Says, put your hands on your head. Simon Says, touch your feet. Simon Says, never mind. Clap your hands. Da. Yes, you there. You're out. And you too. You're out. Go on. Out you go. Good. Ah, I didn't say Simon Says, but you got out, so yes, you're out. You have to be very careful. All right. Simon Says, lift your right knee. Simon Says, lift your left knee. Lift both your knees. And if you're on the floor, well, you didn't wait for Simon, did you? Did you know that Simon Says was invented in 1266 when Simon de Montfort had control of King Henry III? And no matter what King Henry ordered, it didn't matter until Simon Says. Clap your hands. Oh, I did say Simon Says, you see. I just said it as part of another sentence, so yes, you and you're out. Simon Says you're out. Well, you're all doing brilliantly. Isn't this fun, eh? I think it's fun. Simon Says, have fun. Brilliant. Simon Says, flap your arms. Simon Says, flap them again. And again. No! If you flap them a third time, you're out. Simon Says, banana bread. Oh my God, I don't even know why I said that. I don't even know what it means. Simon Says, jump. Simon Says, skip in place. Simon Says, patty cake. Simon Says, jump again. Simon Says, kick. Clap. Simon Says, flap. Clap. Flap. Simon Says, jump. Simon Says, spin. Simon Says, put your hands on your hips. Simon Says, put your head on your knees. Simon Says, put your head on your hands. Put your hands on your hips. Simon Says, jump. No, I didn't say Simon Says. So you there, listen carefully. I didn't say Simon Says. You must listen to me very carefully or you'll be out. Please extinguish all cigarettes. I'm just kidding. Who has cigarettes anymore? If you do, Simon Says, give me one. Simon Says, scratch your head. Simon Says, shout. Wow, very good. That was brilliant. Run in circles. I didn't say Simon Says. Simon Says, ignore my next command. Simon Says, fall on the ground. Simon Says, don't jump. Jump. Don't jump. Simon Says, jump. Sing Rule Britannia. Ah, you all have very lovely singing voices, but I didn't say Simon Says. Simon Says, fall down. Get up. Simon Says, roll over. Simon Says, stand up. Yes, brilliant. That was terrific. It was really very, very good. I hope all of you had a fantastic time. I trust you all brought cake because I did promise cake and I hate to be a liar. Well, the game is over. Simon Says, spin. Simon Says, now the game is over. Simon Says, I hope you enjoyed yourselves. And I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in again next time for another rousing daily recreational activity. Thank you all for playing.
Kommen wir noch. Simon Says mit Waffen. Das kann auch nur witzig sein.
And now, it's time for our daily recreational activity, the show where you're the star. Come on, everyone. It's time for everyone to get out of the street and find a telly to watch. This game is so much more fun with all of your friends and fellow citizens. Today is a very special episode of our favorite Simon Says. Have you ever wondered if you're ready in case the Germans ever came back? Would you know how to defend yourself against the marauding Bosch? Are you ready? All right. Now let's play Simon Says. Haha! Yeah, I didn't say Simon Says. You all know the rules, don't you? I'm going to tell you to do something, but if I don't say Simon Says, you don't do it. If I do say Simon Says, yes, you do it. All right. Is everybody ready? You there. Are you ready? Oh, you are. Yes, that's the Wellington Wells spirit. Everybody give him a hand. Good. No. I didn't say Simon Says. All right then. Now what I want everyone to get themselves a weapon. Cricket, bat, or a crowbar, anything like that. And if all you have is a banana, well, that's fine. Actually, if you do have a banana, just drop it here at the station and I'll swap you for a slightly used mallet. Good. Simon says, raise your weapon. Simon says, swing right. Simon says, swing left. Simon says, swing right. Haha, yes. I can see I already got a few people out there. You swung left, then you're out. The Germans gotcha. Fall to the ground, eviscerated. I'm just joking. You can never be too careful. All right then. Simon says, swing left. Simon says, swing right. Simon says, lunge. Simon says, parry. Lunge. Ah! Yes, you. You're out. Remember, the lunge is your finishing blow. Save it for when your enemy's on his back foot, no matter what Simon says. Did you lunge? You were supposed to. I did say Simon Says. You see, I just said it in bits. Yes. So you and you're out. Simon says, you're out. Very good.
Oh, Monday.
Yes. Go on, give it to me. Simon says, give it to me. Yes, very good. Simon says, take a step forward. Simon says, take a step back. Simon says, swing right. Simon says, swing left. Simon says, finishing blow. Step back. Simon says, shout. Yes. Simon says, raise your weapon. Simon says, have fun. You're all doing brilliantly. Very good.
Oh, Monday.
Simon says, jump. Simon says, parry. Simon says, dodge. Simon says, lunge. Simon says, victory beat is wonderful. Captain says, swing left. Ha-ha. I didn't say Simon Says. Simon says, don't do the next thing I say. Simon says, jump. Oh, what do I do? Simon says, run in circles. Simon says, stay in place. Simon says, lunge. Lovely. Simon says, sing Rule Britannia. Rule Britannia, Britannia rules the waves. Britons never shall be slaves. Good. Simon says,
spielt
swing right.
ist einfach so gut.
Simon says, swing left. Simon says, swing right. Ah! You there. Simon says, run along. Go on. All right. Simon says, fall down. Simon says, get up. Simon says, roll over. Simon says, stand up. Brilliant. Simon says, do everything I do, I shouted, even if I don't say Simon Says. Swing right. Swing left. Swing low. Swing chariot. Lunge. Lunge. Again, lunge. Again, step forward. Right. Left. Right. Lunge. Lunge. Yes, finish him. Fatality. Oh, yes. That was terrific. Very, very good. I hope you all had a fantastic time.
Wahnsinn, wie
I
er
trust you all more
spielt. Das
cake
ist
than
so
I did,
gut,
and I
ne?
did promise cake and
Das ist so überragend gemacht.
Well, I'm afraid the game is over. Simon says spin. Simon says now the game is over. And Simon says, I hope you all enjoyed yourself immensely. I certainly did. We've come to the end of our time. Tune in again next time for another rousing daily recreational activity. Thank you all for playing.
Ja, wenn euch das Video gefallen hat, liebe Leute, dann lasst gerne ein Like. Vergesst nicht mehr zu folgen und wir sehen uns beim nächsten Mal wieder. Bis dann.